All right, welcome back, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Opportunity today, it looks like. Love it. Welcome back. How's it going, everyone? Hope you enjoyed the 3-day weekend. Welcome back, guys. Rise and shine. That's right. Opportunistic day. This is what we like. It's a little bit of volatility. What's going on, Margin? How we doing? Welcome. We got a lot to unpack today, a lot of nice levels to be focused on, a lot of key ideas, theses, a lot of stuff to unpack today. So we're going to try to jump right into this because it's going to take, I would say, longer than usual, but a lot of nice spots. This is the day where your experience should guide you rather than pure panic attack, emotional disaster type of mindset. If you are walking into today excited for opportunistic moves, then you have the right mindset. If you are walking into today with your tail between your legs because the market's down, that is the wrong mindset. So I hope that you are looking at this and saying, here we go, let's make some money, because that's truly what this is. This is what you like to see. You like to see volatility. You like to see these these moves. This is much better as a trader than just sitting sideways in the overnight session. So this is very good. You need to approach the day with a proper mindset. You need to approach the day ready to make some money. It's not that bad. Let me start with that, right? It's really not that bad. A pullback on the market is a good thing, and you should not be looking at this and saying the market is tanking, because it is the furthest from that. That's not a bullish thesis. That is just a simple, that's a logical mindset rather than a panic attack mindset. We are down 1%. It is after sitting at all-time highs. There is nothing wrong with what you are seeing. So, opportunistic, that's the right mindset. That's the right way to approach this. Watch your levels, trade the direction. This is what it's all about. This is what trading is all about, is days like today. So hopefully you can lock in, because these are the days you have to lock in. All right. So with that said, let's jump right into it. So today, market moving lower due to the tariff announcement. We're getting ourselves a nice little tariff threat. Once again, market sort of gapping down due to that into some major levels. And we are going to have to focus on the levels, the reclaims, the reactions at these levels to make our decision of our intraday price action. I'll tell you one thing. Like we've seen in the past, tariff threats usually followed by tariff threats are usually followed by sort of a resolution in the future. So that is very much where my mind is here. I would assume a resolution does come about eventually from this threat. It's not being imposed. It's a threat. So we shall see how the reactions come. Like from today forward, we have to now pay attention to what are the following actions that occur. That will definitely drive the market in a particular direction. So it's very important to stay up to date with the now forward, what happens from this point, right? On top of this tariff threat, today's Supreme Court ruling is massively important. So I think that's actually more important than what we're seeing right now, is what the Supreme Court rules. So I would be waiting for that today. If we do end up getting it, we shall see. And then on top of that, we have some earnings this week. So a lot of things to drive this market in whatever direction it wants to go. It is not, it is definitely not set in stone right now. We have so much macroeconomic and headline risk this week. So that's definitely a week that I would be careful of major swing trades, over leveraging. Like over leveraged swing trades are just definitely not the move this week. Please be nimble. Please be comfortable sized. You have a lot of risk from tweets and headlines and news events and all this stuff. So I would be very careful and understanding of that this week. Okay? That is definitely a thing to be focused on. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and see where the where I want to start is I actually want to start on the S&P 500 today. So I want to show you guys where the S&P 500 has moved lower to and why this is an important spot. So looking at the 4-hour chart here on the S&P 500, we have moved back into our zone from this previous high and these previous highs here. So we have 68.47, which is these highs right here, right here, right here, which was the exact overnight low. And we have these highs right here at 68.68. Right here, 68.68. Previously holding 68.68. Here's your 68.68 hold again. And you can see today we are sitting and holding above that zone. So this pullback is still very much holding a major demand zone right here between 68.47 and 68.68. Now, the next thing I will say, the last 3 times that the ES has moved back to the 100 SMA, what has it done every single time? It has been turned into a buying opportunity. Do we think that stocks like MU, like AMD, like strong semiconductor stocks that have been rocking and rolling are now terrible companies because of a tariff threat on European Union, on the EU, on Denmark, on Greenland, and all these European nations? No. Okay, that is not the case. So I would be very focused on how this regresses, how the resolution occurs, and how this is an opportunistic opportunity like it always is. That doesn't mean it can't go any lower, but this also does not mean that stocks like MU that, are going to make a lot of money, and stocks that have been just really taking advantage of the AI growth recently are now instantly shit companies. Okay, that's not the case. So there will be a moment in the future where these stocks rock and roll once again, and you will likely look back at the Trump threatens tariff on the European Union as an opportunistic time that you wish you took advantage of, right? That's probably how this is going to happen, like it has happened every other time, right? So why think differently? But we have to be focused on where that opportunity sparks, right? When is the resolution occur? When is the upside come back in, right? We can't be too early to it. We also don't want to be too late to it. So this is the difficult part. I think we can all agree that this will likely blow over like every other time, right? But when does the blowover happen and when does the bounce happen? That's the hard part. That's what we're going to have to figure out. But I think the common agreement would be that, yeah, you're probably going to bounce off of a tariff threat like this, but who knows when. So we'll have to be focused on levels to decide that. So right now, 68.47, 68.68 is definitely the area that I would like to see hold on the S&P 500 for today. We'll see if it does. Daily 100's right below. Daily 100 was right here. Daily 100 was right here. So you see bounce off the daily 100, bounce off the daily 100, and take a look at what's happening here at the daily 100 again. Does this become another bounce opportunity? I would be pretty confident in saying that eventually that will occur. When? That's the hard part, but we shall see. 68.47, 68.68, I would be watching that zone. If we do drip below 47, we're going to go to the 100 SMA, and that test might be important. If we break below that daily 100, you come down to your 6,800 key level, and below that, you absolutely still have this December low and September high. So here's your December low right here. That's going to be a major spot if we do continue to move lower. If we do see downside continuation on this market, that could be a target for the downside to come down and test the December low at 67.71. Now, to be very, to know what's going to happen in the short term on the intraday today, this is what you have to do. You have to dive into the shorter time frames, and you have to look at where the reclaims are, where do we have to get back above, or where we're going to potentially reject. And so right now, it is very clear that the 68.90 level is where we have to get back above to look for upside today. All right, so right here, you can see in the 15-minute chart, 68.90 was these lows from the overnight session. You can also see that 68.90 was the level that failed right here overnight last night. And this is also 68.90 and the daily 50 SMA. So to even look for upside today, as you can see in the whiteboard behind me, there's a word that says reclaims. Reclaims are the most important thing to be looking for. If you want to see this become a buying opportunity, you have to wait for levels to reclaim. You cannot buy lows in this type of environment. You need to wait for previous lows that have been broken to turn back into lows, right? Upside not today. Well, Cartolano, that's already approaching the day with a bias. So I would not be very much... if anything, the downside is less interesting because why? Because you've gapped down a 1.4%. I think there is more risk to looking for chasing shorts down 1.4% than there is for looking for a reclaim trade back to the upside, to be quite honest. But, we'll have to let the levels decide. But approaching the day and not expecting or not even being open to the fact of a certain direction is going to put you on the back seat as it starts. So that is the incorrect way to approach today, and that is not how I would expect, or that's not how I would start your day, personally. So 68.90, 68.90, if you reclaim above these lows, if you get back above the daily 50, you are going to see this market push higher back to 69.23 and 69.35. That is just simply how that's going to play out. That's if you do reclaim back above 68.90. That would then become the next rejection point. 69.23 to 69.35 is the Wednesday low. If you come back up, reclaim the daily 50, come back up to 69.23, 69.35, this now becomes a very possible failure point. Now, this is where I would be looking for rejections today. This is where I would be looking for downside, here and here. I would not be looking for downside down into 68.47 major demand after a 1.5% gap down. That's very, very that just doesn't sit well with me. Okay, so where would I like to short today? If I'm going to look short, I'm going to look for a pop and fade at higher levels. I'm not going to look to short into a hole. That's typically not the right idea. So where would I look for that? If we got back up into this supply high, back up into these highs here, back up into this Wednesday low. If we start to see this cause reactions and rejections here and create another rejection point, I would look for a fade here, trying to trade it back down to 68.90 or even trying to trade it back down to these lows. That's very interesting. That's where I would look for the downside. If we're not back at this major supply above, I would be very careful of shorting into these lows. This could be a very difficult area to be looking for short entries, as this is a very important previous demand zone. Now, if you do retest and reject, which you are right now, right? You already are seeing this. If you do keep this daily 50 as a rejection point right here, this could be a very aggressive and very quick downside move to start the day, right? Which could be an opportunity. Now, the only thing I would be careful of is this is a very tight zone. So if you're going to short 68.90 today, you need to be a profit taker into these lows at 68.47. If you break 68.47, then you look for downside continuation to the daily 100 and possibly downside continuation to 6,800. But that is only if you see failures below the overnight lows at 68.47. Okay? The most bullish scenario today is you reclaim this level, you go above 69.35. If you get above 69.35 today or in the future, you have a gap to fill to 69.76. And the same way that we talk about gaps being filled that go up, gap ups that are expected to fill to the downside, this is no different. This is a gap down that I would expect to see get filled to the upside, right? So I would be very much understanding that those gap ideas play the same way. It's not just gap ups get filled, it's gap downs get filled as well. So at some point in the future, you are going to see the market fill this gap at 69.76. When that occurs, I don't know. But just know that it's there, and it's likely to get filled, just like gap ups do. So make sure you understand that, and I would be looking for that if you get back above 69.35, if you reclaim the Wednesday's lows at 23. If you start to see price action maintaining this zone, you likely are going to see that gap get filled at 76. That is a very... That's going to take some time to develop, right? We are not even close to that happening, so we're really not even thinking about that trade until we get up to that level, right? So for now, to start today, it's very clear. You have a very clear choppy area between 68.90 and the overnight lows. This area is going to be difficult, right between here. This is not going to be an easy area to trade. South of 90 and north of 47 is not going to be an easy area to trade. It's going to be choppy. It's going to be difficult. It's probably going to be sort of drop and pops, pop and fades, sort of just not really very fluid. If you get above 68.90 and hold above it, I think you'd have fluidity towards the 69.23. If you start to see failures here, you could look to fade it or look for that reclaim long to gap fill. If you get under the overnight lows, you might have a little bit more opportunity to the downside towards the 100, towards 6,800. Okay, moving on. NASDAQ futures. So what I would be very focused on today is, first of all, I want to show you this. This is on the monthly chart. This is a big spot. I'm going to show you the monthly chart, and I'm going to show you the December lows and the September highs. So right here on the monthly chart, you have a September high and you have a December low. That is between 24,887 and 25,027. So between that zone of about, give or take 100 points, 150 points, 140 points, you have a September high and a December low. And so if we go down to the hourly chart now, we can see that that is just slightly below where the market has started to bounce. And that is exactly where the market bounced right here. So we see right here, 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 we see action here, we see some action here, and you can see once again, there we are on the NASDAQ futures. So there is very little inclination for me to be shorting into such a major demand low. If you wanted to short this market, why not short it at the supply highs and at the all-time high rejections that showed for 2 weeks, right? If you really wanted to be short NASDAQ, why not short it at this rejection, and the same exact rejection for 2 weeks? Why now be interested in shorting it at the level that held, the level that held, the level that held, and here we are again? It just, that is the backwards thought process that I would be very cautious of shorting into these lows. It's just not, it's not long-term the mindset to have. So be careful as we approach those lows. Be careful as we start to trade within this major demand below, which you can see we are very close to. The risk reward is not great looking to short into this level. If we break under this December low, then the downside starts to really flow, right? So that's what I would be looking for if you want to look for downside continuation. Under this low at 24,887, you definitely are going to see some drip. So if you break this 24,887 December low right here, that's where you get aggressive downside to 622 and possibly even down to the 24,158. So definitely some downside if you break this low right here. Now, if we zoom out, we can see that on the hourly chart, you have a very clear low right here from this Friday at 25,265 right here. And you can see that this was also the overnight low right here from Monday, yesterday. We did break below that, and now today is all about whether that reclaims. That is going to be the most important thing to be looking for today. Do we reclaim this low and that previous week low, right here? Let me show you once again. Do you reclaim? This is what you're watching today on the NASDAQ futures. Do you reclaim this low, and do you reclaim this low? If you reclaim those two lows, the NASDAQ is going to slide higher towards the 25,420 Wednesday low right here. That is going to be the reclaim that you need to be very careful of. That's right here. If we zoom in, you can see that is this zone right here. If we hold above that zone, then I would assume the NASDAQ trades back towards this 100 and possibly back towards this Wednesday low at 25,420, 25,472. That's these lows, that's these highs, that's these highs. And if you reclaim this low, you trade up to this high. Now, this would then be, again, the potential look for a short. 25,420, 25,472. If you pop into this low, into these highs, something along the lines of this, then you could look to see if that fades again, right? But that would be the zone to wait for because that's actually where rejection has shown previously. Now, if you get above 25,472, I think you guys can all already imagine what I'm going to say. If you get above 25,472, you are going to trade higher for the gap fill. The same way you gap down and fill the gaps, or the same way you gap up and fill the gaps to the downside is the same way as you gapping up or gapping down and filling the gap to the upside. There's no difference, like I said. So what do we think? We're probably going to fill this gap eventually. Now, when does that happen? That happens if you reclaim 472. That is not, I'm going to long here because Desi said we're going to gap fill and hopefully it happens today. That's not what that is. That's hope and pray. You need to wait for you to get above a key level, above 472, reclaim that, and then you can look for that trade. Okay? SPY. SPY has moved lower into a major demand level. I would be, once again, very careful of shorting a gap down into demand. Please be careful, okay? Lows, highs, major lows, 678.50, 680 on the SPY. You can see previous lows right here, and you are holding them once again. That is not the level to short into. If you wanted to short at rejection highs. Don't short after 1.5% gap downs. So what do you need to look for today? You're going to see if, number one, this level holds, which it is right now, at 680, 678.50. You can see right here, a strong bounce out of that zone already. Daily 50 SMA is now below price action, so I would be very careful shorting into this low. That is not a trade. Where is the short set up today? The short sets up if you trade higher to 686. If you trade higher up to the 686 spot, trade higher into this Wednesday low, and you start to hit this level up here, if this starts to show rejections, then at least you have some opportunity back to the downside before you hit a demand level. So if you're going to look to short today, I would wait for a morning push, and I would look to see if that turns into some kind of a bull trap at 686, 686. That's the spot to look for today. Pop and fade 686 is your short idea. It is not, let me short off the open into a gap down. That is not the idea. So 686, look for it to move higher. If it does, that's a potential entry point. If you get above 686, you turn Wednesday's lows, the gap down level back into support like this, then you are looking for what? You're looking for the gap fill up to 692, 691 area. So very clear 686 level today. That is just tremendously clear, and that is the safest spot to be trading off of today. Whether it is upside or downside, this is the safest spot, 686. There's no cleaner spot on the market today besides that low. QQQ. QQQ has moved lower into the daily 100 SMA. Let me show you what it's done the last 3 times it moved into the daily 100 SMA. Right here, daily 100, bounce. Right here, daily 100, bounce. Right here, daily 100. I would not be shorting into the exact level that we bounced off of over the last few months. So I would be very careful of the daily 100 SMA and the QQQ. That's where we moved lower into today. That is right at 606.76, 608, or 607, sorry. So that's not really a very interesting short for me into that low. Now you can see right here, you are starting to reclaim this low from this Friday. This Friday low right here is 610. So I would be watching this 610 low, and I'd be watching this 607 low, which is also the daily 100 SMA right here at 607. Where would the short set up? If you want to look short on the QQQ, you look for a short here at 615 to 613. These lows, pop and fade, that's your short idea. It's not, let me short into the daily 100 after a 1% gap down. Look for a pop, look for it to start to fade, look for the buyers to start to weaken, look for the bull trap to start to get set, at the 615 previous lows. That's where you look for the risk reward to the downside. Now, if you reclaim 615, if you get back above this high right here and these lows, what are you going to do? You are going to gap fill, right? So, very clear. IWM, a much-needed pullback and a very bullish pullback, may I add. There's absolutely nothing bearish about this pullback in IWM. You did break this sort of irrational uptrend that's just been sort of going straight up. You did fail back under this 264 level, but right now, all you're doing is trading back into the all-time highs. There's nothing bearish yet about the IWM here. 258, 259, previous all-time highs. You're trading lower into it. If you hold this 258, 259, this is business as usual on the IWM. There's nothing weird or scary about this pullback. If you pull back under the previous all-time highs, 258, 259, that is where you will get more downside, likely towards that daily 20 and probably down towards that 253, right? So if you are looking for downside on IWM, I would probably want it to break back below the previous all-time highs before I start to short into that level. Okay. IBIT, pretty much worthless. Bitcoin has been a pointless asset lately. Really no action. It goes up, it comes back down. Bitcoin's starting to become really quiet for some reason. I couldn't tell you why, but 53.85, you failed to 56,000. I would be careful of 54. Obviously, that's now a new rejection point. You're right back into the area you held previously at 50.75, 51.40. So for me, I'm not even really that interested in Bitcoin today. You basically just gave it all back and you're back to where it held previously. So yeah, right here, you're just right back into it. Okay, let's go to gold real quick. GC. Gold, insane, man. What a beauty. What an insane level. 45.80 previous high, holding like a monster. You dipped into that gap on Friday and you just ripped it. You just ripped the shorts. I mean, it was a rip of shorts on gold. It was nasty work. So you had a sort of dive bomb entering the gap and then just a straight rip back higher, reclaiming these lows to end the day. And I mean, just a massive gap up. So gold is just, it's another level, man. These levels on gold are just so gorgeous. It's a gorgeous chart right now. Look at this structure. So clean. So now what are you looking for? You're looking for a pullback to 4,700. You're looking for a pullback to 4,650. Pullback long 4,700. Pullback long 4,650. Those are now your top two watches on gold. Very clean spots. Silver, incredible levels. We've had this 86.32 level, and look at where that held on Friday. Sick. It's sick. Previous highs, into lows. Friday, exact same lows. Boom, straight up. This morning, you can see we are now holding above these highs and these lows between 92.25 and 93.70. If you now turn that area into a higher low, silver is going higher, and I'd say at this point, there is a very strong magnet at this level right here, which is 100. I would be very surprised to not see silver cross that mark. So, not sure when, but I'm assuming it's getting there. 92.25, 93.70, previous highs, into lows. This is very clean. As long as you can continue to maintain this previous high, you are going higher on silver. So we'll see. All right, let's go to the SMH real quick. The SMH is perfection. It's perfection. It's exactly what you want on the SMH. You can see right here, the SMH had a gap to fill below. A very irrational gap, may I add. Previous highs, massive gap from 390 to 396, right? We talked about the gap on the SMH previously, right here. Big gap on the SMH. Look at what the SMH has done today. It has perfectly pulled back into that gap, filled the gap, and now is sitting right at the major level. So this is a very nice pullback on SMH. Previous highs. Here was your gap. You have gap filled here and have held right at the 390 spot. So today is all about 390. Is that a gap fill reversal? Do you hold 390 on this nice pullback, and do you get back over the 396 for more upside? right? And just sort of shake this off and continue higher on the semis? Or do we break under 390? If we fail 390, this 389, 390 spot, then we'll trade back down to this 390 or 384, which is another fantastic spot to look for dip buys on SMH. So SMH, strong sector, a tariff threat on the EU is not going to make me think that semis are now worthless companies, that I should not be long. Absolutely not. That's just it's sort of funny even saying that. So any pullbacks that I see, deeper pullbacks, 384, even this 375 daily 20, beautiful opportunities in the future if we do get some dip on the semiconductors, right? Could be really nice. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, this would be a CMP. What's up, man? Yeah, it would be nice to see this. This is the level that you have to reject for now. If you can get this rejection here, that would show and the ES. So that's really where the beginning short would start. If this is going to stay super weak today, it's right here. 68.90 ES. Right here, right here. That is where you stay weak for the morning. 68.90 daily 50. That is the first level you have to reclaim to even consider upside today. All right. If you want to consider this to be a low that holds, you can't just trade this low. I would want to see a reclaim, right? Again, the word behind me on the chart, reclaims. That's what you need. Whenever you see downside and you are wanting to look for the opportunistic bounce, what you need to wait for is a reclaim of a major level. So the reclaim levels for me today, so let it be known. Reclaim levels for me, number one, 68.90, and then 69.35. Those are the must reclaim levels. Without that, you're looking downside. On the NASDAQ futures, it's like right here around 25,265 to 236. If that fails, you go lower, okay? And then it's back above 25,472. So we have some very important spots to be watching this morning. I would just make sure that you are cautious of shorting into this major low. Make sure not to chase that short, and make sure not to chase the short into this low here, okay? Make sure you are properly positioning yourself off key levels with positive risk reward. Very important today, all right? All right, so with that said, let's jump into some equities. If you guys could, please press that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I like the Tesla downside, but only at the higher level today. So I really like the Tesla look for downside if you can pop and fade. Pop and fade, 435, 434. These lows, these highs, this would be incredible. I hope we can get back up there. I don't know if we will, but that would be really what I'm looking for. This would be such a clean failure here of the previous Friday low and the Wednesday low. Little pop, little bear flag, little fade there. That would be great. I would really like to look for that, but for now, it's sort of just too far down. It's down into these previous major lows, so I'm not sure I'm interested in that short. I would like a pop and fade 435, 434. That would be really nice. Okay. NVIDIA, I think it's pretty damn clear now that NVIDIA 191 has an absolute just behemoth at it every single time. Once again, just smack down 191. Just not worth trading into that level ever. It looks like to me NVIDIA might be trying to come down to this 178 spot. You have these previous highs right here that you sort of went straight up. You never retested this breakout point right here. See this? See how you just sort of went straight up right here? One of these, just vertically higher without a retest. So I'm assuming that NVIDIA might be trying to come down, fill in a little bit of that gap, and then move higher off this 178. That's something I'm watching. But I think more interesting today, AMD, MU for the semiconductors are more of the interesting names. So right here, AMD has a very important zone to be watching. Look at this right here. You have 223, 224, right? These highs, these highs, these highs. Nice pullback, nice hold so far, 223, 224. But I would not want to be short. I would not want to be long. What's the NASDAQ doing? Oh, we're getting some action. Okay. A little bit of juice, a little bit of up, a little bit of down. Okay. Did we get news? Looks like it's just sort of getting a little bit volatile, huh? Okay, so ES for now, 68.90, failing. Very nice. That's the spot. Hopefully it waits for us. If you guys are trading futures, then that's your spot. But for the option side today, I don't want this to go lower. I want it to go higher. I want it to stay higher to look for the fade. I don't want to be short into a morning low. That's just not something I want to do today. It's not interesting. So hopefully this can stay higher to present an opportunity, because I really would not want to be short into the overnight low. That's just very sketchy to me. But let's see. Hopefully it can stay higher for us. All right, AMD. So I like this pullback, 223, 224, but I don't like the failures at the Friday lows. So look at this. This is actually I think this is a very nice opportunity today. You have Friday lows here at 228, 228.50. That's a nice rejection point. That could be your fade spot. I would look for it. However, your 223, 224 is also a very, very, very important previous high. You can see highs, and you can see this low, right? 223, 224. So I'm going to be a little bit careful within this zone, right? This is sort of that NTZ, a little bit of a choppy zone here. But I would say if AMD either fails under 223 and moves lower, that would be a great trade, or AMD reclaims this high and Friday's lows and moves higher. Both of these trades outside of this range, very much interesting today. I would be focused on it. MU, incredible. I mean, just shrugging off the entire downside move. MU staying a beast. I mean, it really, that's the word for it. MU is a beast. Perfect pullback on MU. Right back into the previous highs here. I mean, absolutely perfect. Highs, highs, highs. Right back into that zone overnight. Bouncing right off that area. Crazy. So really clean there on MU. Today, I would be interested in whether this holds back above 360 or if it can pull back and hold 346, 351. I'd be watching both spots. If you hold above 360 and the market shrugs off this news a little bit and starts to bounce, then MU off 360 is going to be a really nice spot. Or a little bit of a dip back down into 351, 346 again. Either way, very much interested in the MU pullbacks, as it has been a very strong name. Okay, TSM, another very interesting pullback going on here on a strong semiconductor. Here's TSM 4-hour. You guys can see right here, previous highs. Look at the pullback, 333, 336. That's an interesting spot on TSM right there. If you fail below that 333, then you probably just sort of drip lower. Maybe you got to come back down to the daily 20, which would be just fine. But for now, I'm going to look to see if this previous high turns into support. Okay, let's keep moving. WDC, SNDK, two stocks that have been sort of straight up, giving us pullback looks. We can see here on WDC, we have pulled back nicely, back towards our 201, 204 zone. This was the pullback that I originally was waiting for, which we never got. Looks like we have finally gotten part of it. So I don't mind that 201, 204 zone on WDC. A little bit of a pullback here, over the last few days, over Friday into today. If we can get maybe a hold above this 210 or maybe even another pullback to this 204, I would not mind looking to see if these levels hold up. You have the daily 20 SMA sort of right below price action here, and maybe it needs to, catch up a little bit. But I don't mind looking to see if some of these pullbacks hold some of these previous highs for now. 201, 204, and then there's 210. We'll have to watch price action. SNDK, I would be careful shorting SNDK. You can see that we are right back into these highs, and I would be careful shorting right back into that retest. So you can see right here, previous highs, previous highs, previous highs. It held perfectly on Thursday. It held perfectly on Friday, and it is holding perfectly again this morning. So before you start thinking that SNDK is a good short, you need to ask yourself, am I really wanting to short into the same level that held on Thursday and the same level that held on Friday? Now, whether or not SNDK goes lower, that's not the argument here, right? The argument, whenever I talk about levels, guys, you need to understand that my mindset, right? And this is how you should approach this. Your mindset should be based off of what's happened in the past, right? And it's not about whether you think it's going to move higher or lower. It's about trading based off what has occurred in the past, right? And sticking to that, because whatever you make up in your head is so arbitrary. It means literally nothing. I mean, I could think that, I could make up any thought in my mind. Right? It doesn't matter. Like, I could think, okay, Apple's going higher today. Is there any merit behind that? No, right? There's no merit behind that thought. What is the merit? What do you need to pay attention to? Am I looking to short into Thursday's lows and Friday's lows? Is that a level that I have seen a good short entry occur at in the past? That answer is a very astounding no. Okay? Very clear. I mean, if you look at the last 2 days and you look at what's happened here and here, it's pretty clear that whoever shorted here and whoever shorted here is not looking good, right? Not really that good, right? So I would probably want to see that break, right, before I look to short. And so if we did see a break and we turned it into a rejection point, then you have a very clear reason to say, hey, SNDK looks like a good short. It's turning Monday's highs, Tuesday's highs, Wednesday's highs, Thursday's lows, and Friday's lows back into a rejection point. And now I could say that looks like a good short. Before that, you are just thinking of some kind of arbitrary idea that's based off of nothing. You need to trade based off what's happened in the past. Here, this is not a good short. By no means is this a good short. Now, if this goes lower today, that is, again, not the argument. I am not trying to predict. Like, I'm not saying, hey, this isn't going lower today. What this means is it's not a good short because you are trading against what's happened in the past, right? And maybe it's different this time, but you can't guess that. That's not possible to just guess. This time's going to be different. You have to guess with what's happened in the past. So, very important. MP, right here, rare earth, right? Rare earth has been very strong, still outperforming. MP barely moved lower on the tariff news. It's actually, I think, good for MP, to be quite honest. But MP, still a very strong name, over 66. I still like this thing long term. Google, not a bad look for downside. If you can get a rejection of 325 right here, 325. If you turn this low in, now this is a good short, right? This could be a good short. Why? Well, because I need to now, I've fallen below this 325. I've fallen below this high at 325. Can we see failures there, right? If I see failures here and price action shows me rejections here at these previous lows that have now broken below, then that looks like a nice opportunity to the downside, right? On a little retest rejection, just like this, right? It's the same read. So you had, this is sort of like SNDK, right? Look at this and look at our examples on SNDK and Google, okay? We had a previous high, that turned into lows, When was Google a good short? Right here. Why? Because it turned this high, this low into a rejection point. That's a good short, right? Now look at SNDK. Look at the difference here, guys. It's very, very clear. Look at the difference. Highs, lows. Look, what would SNDK need to be doing? It would need to be doing this, right? Failing below these lows. What is it doing right now? It's holding these lows. That is a very clear example of two different, of exactly the difference there. Look at that. Now that is beautiful. So what would I be looking for now? Well, I'd be looking to see if that same thing sets up here at 325. Let's see if it moves higher and rejects that. We shall see. Amazon, another sick example of this exact thesis, the break and retest rejection, right? Look at this right here on Amazon. Previous lows, incredible bear flag off 239, 240. What a beautiful rejection this was. This trade's over, though, unfortunately. Actually, this trade could be, you could maybe continue, actually, if you fail 233. If you fail 233, then you're coming down into this gap, right? This straight up move. Look at Amazon here. Straight up Straight up. Just ridiculous straight up 2 times in a row there. Straight down. No good deed goes unpunished. All right. Straight up, straight up, straight down again. So we'll see. Palantir moving lower into a major demand low. I would be very careful into this low. If you look at the 4-hour chart, this is a very nice spot. You can see right here, major highs, major lows, and look at this low again. 161, 163. I'd be looking out for this spot today. 161, 163 Palantir. Major previous level, right? Highs, lows, and right here. Let's see what happens there. Really big inflection point for Palantir. Hood broke 112, went straight down to our 200 SMA. That was gorgeous. I would now be careful of shorting Hood into the 200 SMA. That's right here. That's right here. That's the 200 SMA right here. That's a really big spot for Hood today. 102. ASTS would love a little bit of a deeper pullback on this one today. I hope it gives it to us. ASTS staying strong. Would love this deeper pullback. 99, 101. Oh, man, would this be nice. I hope we get it. So, looking for ASTS to dip a little bit lower to set up that long, right around that 100 spot. Next one and final one we're going to talk about today is CRWV. Love this pullback look as well. You can see CRWV moved up into the daily 200, rejected, very, very expected. Nothing hard, nothing crazy about that. Look for the pullbacks to 92 today. This would be incredible. Little pullback to 92, get us back to these triple top highs, see if that can turn into a hold level. I like that pullback, watching that. If you fail back under 92, then you're going back to 85. Okay. Adobe. Matt, let's take a look. What's Adobe up to? Looking like it's getting sort of pummeled. All these software names are sort of getting pummeled lately. Yeah, something's going on with these names, man. CRM's getting trashed. Adobe's getting trashed. I think AI concerns, man, we talked about Adobe in the past. We've talked about, this has sort of been like a sort of macro thesis on this channel is Adobe going to have problems in the future? I don't know. 275 is a massive level here, Matt. It's really got to hold that, but this does not look good. It has been very weak. CRM's been weak lately. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, definitely this zone, though, Matt. 375, 300 area. Big-ass spot there. Big spot. All right. That's going to be it. So, going back into the NASDAQ futures here, we can see we are starting to see some failures at our previous lows. This is definitely a major spot. The S&P 500 is failing 68.90. Very much a major spot. SPY. It looks like the SPY level, we'll see what that SPY level develops. Right now, it's looking like a little bit like 683. But I like that ES level. That's very clear. That 610 spot on Qs, very important. But yeah, this ES spot is really the... This is really the most clean level of the day for me, guys. Super, super clean level. 68.90, daily 50. So clean, right? Right here. Just, that's the level for me that I want to be watching very closely this morning. I'd be a little bit careful off the open. You know there's going to be games off the open. If you go vertically lower today off the open, please be careful of chasing that. Please understand that you have a gap above. Here's the last thing I'll say, right? And like, I'm happy to embrace the people that come back tomorrow and say, Desi, the market went straight down today. You said to be careful shorting. What's going on, right? I would so much rather miss downside chasing it than chase downside and get ripped today, right? Like, if we go lower and we just grind lower and it's just a lower day all day and I end up I don't find myself a comfortable short because we're so far down already, we're on a 1.5% gap down, so be it. I would so much rather that be my day than be short on a 1.5% gap down and then say, well, yeah, makes sense. You got trapped. like nasty trapped. So that's my mindset heading into today. I'm cautious. I'm not bullish, right? I'm not bullish here, but I am very cautious of being a horny bear, right? that's what I am today, okay? I am not bullish, but I am also not a horny bear. So there you go. Make it, clip it, right? That's what I'm today. Not a horny bear, not bullish, but cautiously cautious of chasing downside into a gap down. Very cautious, especially with the Supreme Court ruling that could drop intraday. Okay? That could really mess things up. So, cautious this morning. Okay? All right, guys. Enjoy your day. Best of luck. I hope you make some money today. I hope some of these levels and setups are, potentially play out and you can find some juice out there. Be smart this morning. Definitely going to be a volatile morning, right? A lot of stuff that the market's going to try to unpack this morning. So maybe the first 15, 30 minutes, let it sort of move around, let it, see a little bit of action, and then let's see how this thing is playing out. All right? If you guys want to trade live with me every day, down below in the description, make sure to go check out the last video I posted. That was doing really well, so it seems like you guys liked it. One of the best performing videos on the channel in a while, actually. So appreciate the support on that one, guys. We're up to around 12,000 views on that. Make sure to go press the like button on that. And that's about it. Have yourself a beautiful day. Peace and love.